That's some living lettuce that we got a month ago, and I wanted to see if it would manage to stay alive for a whole month, and it did. So we'll see how it does.
To its name.
And there's some of the living lettuce on James's plate with some nasturtium greens, flour, and some tomatoes and treat. And I'm going to talk about India Reborn, current revolution, and where there once was water. And I've been meaning to read you my notes that I made while I was watching those things, but I just kept getting too cold out here. But today it's all right, and we're in the sun, so we'll see how I'll do. So I'll first talk about current revolution, but you can see it's not top of the stack as far as I'm concerned. But this one came out in 2021, and it was only 30 minutes long. U.S. coal consumption continues to decrease. 75% of all U.S. homes without electricity are on the Navajo Nation. Navajo water used for generating station. The Navajo people are glad the generating station is being shut down. They weren't really profiting from it, they say, but they were profiting from it in the short term. But it didn't bring lasting prosperity or expected prosperity. So that's really what they did, make some money off of it, I guess. So, but they want their water, natural resources situation to be returned to how it was before the plant was built. Don't we all? So this video was an ad for solar farms on the Navajo Nation, basically. This will be worse for them than the previous generating station was. Where the panels are, the land grows no life. These panels turn the biodiversity of the land to zero instantly. Instant deserts. Power produced for those who can pay. These farms kill poor people and all native life faster than the biodiesel farms. Once the corn remnants from biodiesel production accumulate, they compost. Once the solar panels are used up, they need to be recycled, which is costly in terms of money and the effects on the environment. Or they just end up being garbage. You know, not all the parts, I'm sure, would be
I don't know what you do with the,
I don't know what they do with the batteries.
The battery sludge.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, where there once was water, 2021. Another film from Southern California, Navajo Nation. The water is contaminated, so the EPA closed down their windmill, even though it still works. 190 watersheds in California. One drop of water can be moved from the north to the south. It's how they plumb the state. Water's so subsidized that it's essentially free. And they were talking about
in California.
They were talking about how they think that's a problem because since it's basically free, people don't value it, right? So
they just would waste it.
Yeah. So anyway, 1,400 dams interrupt the natural function of the watershed. Water in dams is more subject to evaporation than other natural flowing water. Fish can't spawn, move in streams as they naturally are designed to live. This is mainly an ad against the dams. Temperance something Bay, maybe? Dam? I mean, there weren't subtitles. I tried to rewind it a couple times. I still didn't make it out, so whatever. Public cost $3 billion. 80% of water in California is consumed by agriculture. Shasta County, I think I wrote down, 95% of their ancestral lands were flooded. Most salmon runs are on the verge of collapse due to dams. Winnemem, middle water people. 80 pounds used to be a regular salmon. Now 20 to 30 pound salmon is common. Those are hatchery fish. That's what they're basing this common size on. They say, and salmon brings the nutrients of the ocean up into the mountain streams. El Segundo, LA sewage water recycling plant.
That's the second in
might
Spanish.
Not have that right.
Oh, no, it would be segundo.
They supply several uses of water, including drinking water. 650 million spent in 23 years in San something basin.
Where is that?
I don't know. Cleaning up groundwater sources. You can watch it and try to figure out what it is.
Oh, you don't
Yeah,
have...
I don't know what it is. That's
No, just point it out where it is.
Well, it's nothing because I couldn't make out what it was. So
Okay.
I wrote something,
Okay,
literally wrote something. That's
okay.
what I... cleaning up groundwater sources. It is so subsidized. No one pays the true cost for the water they buy. If they did, they may pay 4 times as much. Without trees, the underground water systems vanish. Trees are critical to rebuild natural water systems. The beaver and salmon have a symbiotic relationship. There used to be 400 million beaver in North America. Beaver dams increase the riparian areas and make them more resilient to fires. Beavers are shock absorbers when flooding occurs. Our dams don't benefit nature as beaver dams do.
Did they say billion or million? Beaver.
400 million.
Okay, million. Good. Billion would be out of sight.
Boy, the snow is melting all over me right now.
Mm-hmm.
How can our agriculture dams function more like beaver dams? They're asking that. Can we possibly make them like that? And I'm saying no, they can't. Because reduce our population gently now to prevent the cruel deaths of many, many people and all of the life in the natural world. African Americans from a high crime neighborhood are talking about their urban gardens. Drip irrigation and heavy mulching is what they rely on for their gardens, which that's awesome. 2 people mainly talk about this, 1 man and 1 woman. The woman mentioned the size of her family. She wasn't a single child or raised with 1 sibling. When a couple replaces themselves with 2 children, the population stays the same. When couples have more than 2 children, the human population continues to increase.
Shame on people.
More humans, less nature. It's that simple. So India Reborn, 2008. This is the first. There's multiple episodes in here. So this is quite a bit longer than the last ones I was talking about. The first one's Myth and Might. Here's a quote. I predict Chinese and Indians will rule the world, is one of the first things said in this episode series. The busiest railway in the world in India. Lalu is one of the world's most powerful politicians. He's the boss of the railway. Tech professional expertise is turning India into a world superpower. The men who tend the cremation fires are untouchables, who have no chance of ever sharing in India's economic prosperity. They show 1 man and his family of 6 who live in 2 tiny rooms. India's middle class, 300 million, has exploded. Most people are landless. 1 man, who is among them, talks about it. He has a family of 15. Women who worked used to be considered to be lower class, but now that has changed for women. 1 woman who gives Ayurvedic massage is interviewed. She makes what a person would spend on 1 lunch in a whole month of work, but seems happy. She works so her children may continue their schooling. Brahmin hold top jobs in politics. Lalu started as a cowherd, but moved to be an important person in politics. He represents hope for the poor. What's possible in the new India? RSS, nationalist Hindu group, wants to turn a secular nation into a Hindu nation. 58 people, Hindu pilgrims, died in a train fire. Then the Hindus took revenge and killed over 2,000 Muslims and left over 200,000 homeless. In rural India, medical care is the 2nd most common reason for death. The medical staff wear masks while operating that cover mouths but leave noses uncovered. They operate in a shed. Singh studied medicine in Europe. He now offers his medical services as charity in India. His father was a freedom fighter alongside of Gandhi. Lalu is suspected of diverting millions of agriculture dollars for his own use. Spent time in jail, released. Bureaucrats took it. He said he was being attacked because some thought he fought the upper caste. He said no, he was fighting for the have-nots, the poor. Diwali, I'm saying, both are true. I mean, really, how can you not be fighting the upper caste if you're wanting to bring the lower caste up? You're going to bring the upper caste down, right? Diwali candles on the river is the final scene of this episode. 2, manufacturing dreams. This is the 2nd episode in this. Bollywood. A father says, if my daughter told me she was in love with somebody, I'd shoot her. Many don't embrace the Bollywood fantasy. A woman is followed as she plans her Bollywood wedding. She says that she was raised as a princess and so she will have a princess's wedding with 8,000 guests. Society weddings have become a competitive sport. Her dad made his money in tech. She barely knows the man she'll marry. Muslims own the looms and make the fabric. In India, one is expected to live in the same house as the parents, but a radio DJ, who the show follows, is single and seeking a bachelor pad. His income has grown 10 times in short order. A man's blaming Western ads for why women in India are bleaching their skin, since they believe fair is beautiful. Episode 3. India is on the move.
What's that about Western ads?
Yeah.
Our caste system is based on something, it's called Varna. It means color. Traditionally, the lighter you were, the more upper class you were. So don't blame Western ads, you idiots.
Third episode, India's on the move. They follow the owner of an airline and beer company called Kingfisher. He's a billionaire. He has a private jet that would normally carry 130 passengers. It has been converted into his personal penthouse in the sky. Less than 2% of their population travels by air. A man with 2 Harvard degrees, film studies and business. He's created the Scorpio, an SUV for India. He says that due to colonialism, people get used to being second best. That is changing since Kuwait. A woman is followed. She is a businesswoman, a cardiologist. Her and her husband own 2 businesses. They look at scans taken in the US and report their findings via the internet within 30 minutes. There are nomads who travel around to find grazing land for their animals. More of the world's poorest people live in India than anywhere else in the world. They live in the countryside. And that's all I have written so far.
Yeah.
I haven't written for the 4th episode. I give you the floor. Talk about it.
So I believe there was 58 people that got burned. And they made it sound almost like an accident. It was in Gujarat, I believe, somewhere. And there were folks in that train coming back from a sort of pilgrimage to a place called Ayodhya, a traditional kind of capital for a part of India, and a kind of a religious center too. And these folks were coming back from celebrating the destruction of a mosque in Ayodhya. Which had been built, I think, on not just in this sacred city, but on a sacred site. Muslims have had a very bad record for doing that, building their mosques and other, it's not just mosques, like the Golden Dome. There's a mosque on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. That's a Jewish holy site, the most holy. It's supposed to be the most, the 3rd most sacred Muslim site. Say what? I don't care if it's 3rd or 2nd. That doesn't trump 1st. And I'm telling you, that mosque, Al-Aqsa Mosque, I think it's called, should not be there. It's the duty of Muslims to take it down nice and friendly like. Now the Zionists and Jews and Israelis have got a really bad rep amongst lefties. Compare and contrast.
They still have hate.
The Jews have let that Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Golden Dome stand. The Hindus in India took down that mosque on their sacred site. I don't think it's even their most sacred site. It's one of their most. Oh, see, compare and contrast. Then let's look at the way Muslims behave. World Trade Center, you could almost argue, is a sacred site for capitalists. What sort of like there were lefties going on, hey, someone took out someone in a turban. I don't know how many people were killed in response. That's the only one that I can recall hearing about in the United States. The World Trade Center killing. So they're just celebrating. They're not actually burning the thing down or whatever, tearing it down. I don't know how many years before, 8 years before, 10 years before, it was taken down by Hindus, the mosque in Ayodhya. They're coming back from celebrating in a train, and Muslims catch them in the train car, and set it on fire, take out 58 people. An atrocity. Well, you got to be able to take it. When you've built sites on a religious site on someone else's religious site, something that's been a religious site, the Hindus think it's thousands of years. You should be taking the stuff down yourself and moving it elsewhere.
Little red guy. What's his name? House fish. That's nice to see. I always love seeing them. It's nice seeing color.
Yep. So, just not Varna color in that sense.
Oh, I guess.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So, they were saying 2,000 people got killed. I'd heard 3,000 in response to the 58 that got killed. Compare and contrast to the almost non-response of the Americans locally in the United States to this horrible atrocity. 3,000 people killed. I think that's 50 times the number of people that were killed in this train incident. So far as I know, there's only one person killed. I think it was a Sikh in response. There's got to have been more. I mean, we're talking about the United States, and everybody knows it's violent and racist, or maybe I'm being ironic. There are violent and racist elements in the United States, but it's stunning. Compare and contrast. So for every person that died on the train, the Hindus took out 30 people. The Americans, then if they'd taken out 30 people for everyone that died in the World Trade Center, Muslims, or people who look like Muslims, inside the United States.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, 30,000, 90,000 people. Compare and contrast. So all you nifty, shifty, hefty lefties going around saying the United States is intolerant and it's racist. It's religiously intolerant. Compare and contrast. What happened there was done under the auspices, to some degree or another, of Modi, who's now the leader of India. I'm almost certain it was in Gujarat, Western state. I want you to know, here in Canada, it seems like the majority of people who come here from the Indian subcontinent, from India itself, are either from the Punjab, they're Sikh. And I can guarantee you they're not a tolerated minority. They are here. And by and large, there'd be exceptions, but they'd be minuscule. And then from Gujarat. And everyone I've run into here from Gujarat is a big fan of Modi. Huh? Modi's a racist. He's a borderline fascist. Wow. Absolutely shameful. What are you folks from Gujarat doing here? You're not persecuted, so far as I know. You're Hindus, and you believe in Hindu nationalism. Are you bringing it over here? What do you think of the natives here, the indigenous? What do you think of white people here? What do you think of black people here? You're still thinking Varna. I know. And we're all in the same barrel. We're all pariahs and outcasts. What are you doing here? You are settler, colonizing, imperializing.
Anything else to talk about? You have 10 minutes. If anything else struck
Not
you.
really.
Okay.